What I want to begin with, though, is what happened yesterday before the Senate Judiciary Committee. It got a lot of coverage. It was, kind of wall to wall on all the television networks. In particular, the moments when the two moments of high theater, when Lindsey Graham said to Mark Zuckerberg, "You've got blood on your hands, buddy," and then when Josh Hawley asked Zuckerberg if he wanted to apologize to the people sitting behind him who had lost their children because of Mark Zuckerberg's product. And Zuckerberg got up and said, I'm sorry that you feel hurt, or words to that. It was a non-apology apology. So what the hell's going on here? Well, generally speaking, when you say to a Republican or a conservative, we really need to regulate blank, right? Fill in the industry. We really need to regulate the fossil fuel industry. We really need to regulate hospitals. We really need to regulate doctors. We really need to regulate the food industry. We need to, we need to regulate the pesticide industry. Their response, the classic libertarian response, is that's why you have courts. They literally argue that there is no need for the Food and Drug Administration. In fact, Milton Friedman wrote a book about this. There is no need for the Food and Drug Administration. There's no need to even license doctors. It's a chapter in Friedman's book. No need to license doctors because patients can sue if they get hurt. So if you go to the doctor and, he takes out your pancreas instead of your appendix and you die, your family can sue him. And odds are he won't do that again. I mean, that's the whole logic, right? Now, we have kind of a hybrid system. Of course, we have a court system where you can sue companies that harm you. And we also have a regulatory system where we set up agencies to have oversight over technologies or industries that have the potential to harm us. So the FAA looks at airplanes and are they safe? The FCC looks at radio and television stations. Are they operating, within the bounds of the law? The Food and Drug Administration looks at drugs and foods. Et cetera. You get this. So we've got these two ways that if an industry is harming us or our children, we can hold them responsible. Number one, we can sue them. Number two, we can have a regulatory agency that can regulate their behavior. Except for social media. Let me say that again. Except for social media. Back in 1996, Bill Clinton signed a law called the Telecommunications Act of 1996. It had a section in it, a provision in it, it was called Section 230, that basically says you cannot sue social media companies and you cannot regulate them. So for nearly 30 years now, ever since 1996, what is that, 27 years, something like that, these companies have been operating without regulation and with legal immunity. Now, it wasn't always this way. Before 1996, social media companies were considered publishers. They were just like the New York Times or the Washington Post. If you publish something that is wrong, or if you publish an op-ed by somebody that is criminal, that is calling on people to commit crimes, you yourself, your publication can be held to account for it. Same thing here. I mean, there are things that I could do or say on this program that would get me in trouble with the law or get me or my stations in trouble with the Federal Communications Commission. I don't do those things for good reason. But with regard to social media, there is nothing that they can do that would invoke a regulatory agency. There is nothing they can do, or virtually nothing they can do, that you could sue them for. None of those families sitting behind Mark Zuckerberg could take him to court because he has immunity. And what that immunity has done is made him into, the richest millennial in the world. He owns 1/50th of all the millennial wealth in America, 2%. Now, like I said, it wasn't always this way. Back in the late 1970s, early 1980s, Nigel Peacock and I got on CompuServe. Nigel is, if you subscribe to Hartmann Report or any of my other, we've got a couple, the hunterandfarmersworld.com, wisdomschool.com. If you subscribe to them, sometimes you'll hear from Nigel, right? Because he does all our kind of back office stuff and customer support stuff. And Nigel and I have worked together for, since the late 70s or early 80s. I don't know when we first met, but it was back in that era. And we ran forums on CompuServe, and they paid us well. I mean, they paid us like 20 grand a month to make sure that we ran, I think, 34 forums at our peak. We had the Macintosh forum, the Desktop Publishing forum, the IBM PC forum, the Kennedy Assassination forum, the ADHD forum, the UFO forum. I mean, you know, these were just like Facebook groups, right? And we had about 20 people who worked for us, or with us, and we split up the money that we got from CompuServe with them. And, you know, our job was to make sure that if somebody came into one of these forums and posted a commercial message or tried to solicit somebody for sex or tried to sell drugs or whatever, that we busted them, that we got rid of it, that we got it off the board. And we took care of that. It was an important thing. It was an important job that we did. And then came the Telecommunications Act in 1996, and CompuServe said to Nigel and me, we're not going to pay you guys anymore. See you later. Because they didn't have to. They no longer could be sued. They no longer had any liability. Now, if today Facebook had to operate the way that CompuServe did prior to 1996, Mark Zuckerberg would still be a billionaire. It would still be a multi-billion-dollar business. He just would have, instead of making a couple $1 billion a year, he might make $1 billion a year or a few $100 million a year, because he would have to spend, a couple $1 billion a year paying people to do what Nigel and I used to do. And he doesn't want to pay that. He doesn't want to do that. And I'm not just picking on Mark Zuckerberg here. This is true across social media. It's true of Elon Musk with X. It's true of the whole bunch of them. So, I wrote a book about this, right? The Hidden History of Big Brother. And Josh Hawley wrote a book about this. And we came to essentially the same conclusion, which is that it is time to eliminate Section 230. So here's what Section 230 has brought us. This is from an internal Facebook document from October 2019, and it was leaked to the MIT Technology Review. This is how powerful Vladimir Putin has become in the United States. The largest Christian American Facebook page on Facebook, 20 times larger than the next largest, reaching 75 million US users monthly, is not run by Americans, it's foreign run. The largest African-American page on Facebook, 3 times larger than the next largest, reaching 30 million US users monthly, not run out of the United States. And mostly these are run by Russia. Or at least that's the assumption that many are coming to. I mean, Facebook is not giving us the details. The second largest Native American page on Facebook, reaching 400,000 users a month, again, not run by Americans. The 5th largest women's page on Facebook, reaching 60 million US users monthly. This is, when the 2019 report was written, the top 20 American Christian sites on Facebook, 19 were run by foreign troll farms. 10 of the top 15 African-American sites on Facebook, including the one that sits at number 1, similarly run by foreign, mostly Russian troll farms. I mean, it's just crazy. And this is, the solution to this, frankly, is to say, these guys have liability. If you put a sign out in front of your house that says, big party Friday night, no rules, everybody welcome. And Friday night comes and a bunch of people show up and there's a guy, dealing guns in the backyard, and there's somebody, set up a heroin shooting gallery in the front bedroom, and they're running a prostitution ring out of the kitchen. The police would come and arrest you. Not just the criminals who are there in your house, but you too, right? This is the flip side of the castle doctrine that dates back to the 1200s in British common law, which is that your home is your castle and you are responsible for what happens in it. Unless you're Mark Zuckerberg, unless you're running social media. So the solution that I have, and the solution that Josh Hawley has, and the solution that Dick Durbin was talking about yesterday, is put an end to Section 230. Section 230 was put into place explicitly. It was bipartisan, by the way, in 1997. It was put into place, or 1996, explicitly to jumpstart the internet. Well, it did that. And now it's time to say, it's a mature industry. We need to regulate it. We need to put social media under the purview, under the control of the Federal Communications Commission, and we need to eliminate Section 230 so that these companies can be considered publishers, which is what they are, publishing content that we provide to them, just like a newspaper publishes your letter to the editor. And, you know, let's go with this. So, anyhow, that's my rant. And you can find it over at hartmannreport.com. You know, why is it that we can't sue these morbidly rich social media moguls? We should be able to. I mean, it's just straightforward stuff. On the other hand, you know, they're going to throw millions of dollars in campaign contributions to prevent this from happening.